I only know 25 letters in the alphabet, and I don't know why. What's going on, YouTube? Jake currently on his lunch break here with a blanket on. Unfortunately, now that I've recovered from my fever, I have to pay my heating bill again, so it's a bit tragic. But today, we have our Tuesday vendor flip. So we're firstly in the Infinite Archive over here with Filer Ool. Don't forget, pick up your gold coins off the table, except for these gold coins. These ones are fake. Now, the reason we go over this bad man pajama is he's got some good items. First one, 5,000 Archival Fortunes. You can get the Face of the Serpent lead. Now, this one, it's a bit weird because it comes from a dungeon. So, if you have a lot of Archival Fortunes and you don't want to run Elden Hollow 1 a bunch of times, yeah, potentially it's a good, resource user. This will give you access to the Ring of the Wild Hunt. It's a lead and mythic I think that everybody should own. I think it's really one that everybody should have on at least a couple of characters. Reason for that being is it increases your speed, so it's great for getting quests done. If you're like, oh my gosh, Jake, I gotta go level up the Sigic Order, I gotta go get scribing, blah blah blah. Boom! Now you can go through extras fast. Also, stage 4 vampirism also helps significantly by being able to sprint into invisibility. It's also great for resource farming. So overall, Ring of the Wild Hunt is one of the mythics that you should own in ESO. Should you buy it for 5,000 Archival Fortunes? It's up to you. Next, we have the Wild Smithed Anvil. Now, this one is relatively straightforward. Just comes from world bosses in the Westweld Zone. Probably not one that you're going to want to farm. There's only 5 pieces that go together, so it's not like some leads that have like a bajillion of them together. But overall, probably one that you're just going to farm naturally versus using Archival Fortunes. Because 5,000 Archival Fortunes, bit of an investment. Next up, we have the Nireneth's Mask. Now, I believe this is from Crypt of Hearts. And overall, this is just not worth very much gold. Now, obviously, when you get these, they're bound. So you can't resell these anyway for 15,000 Archival Fortunes, but you're only saving yourself about 414,000 gold on average, and that's being really hopeful. It just doesn't have, look at the face. What are you supposed to do with this? Next up is Somerset Treasure Maps, which for 2,000 Archival Fortunes, still just unfortunately aren't enough. Somerset's DLC didn't add a new exclusive ancient ancestral motif that drops from treasure maps. Unfortunately, all the cool motifs that drop from there actually come from fishing holes. So if you want to go fishing in Somerset, fantastic. You can get the Predorian or Pedodian, or somebody will tell me in the comments how it's pronounced. You get those motifs from fishing, but there's no rare drops that come from the treasure maps. The sets there are fine, but not nearly enough to make it worth trying to convert your Archival Fortunes into these treasure maps, because you could just buy these treasure maps for almost no gold. In fact, you could buy them for less gold than they are worth in Archival Fortunes. Next up, we have medium armor for companion gear. I think overall this is probably a skip. DPS gear for a companion is usually pretty cheap to purchase compared to its healing and tanking brethren. We also don't have any sort of hints that there's going to be new companions added this year. I think that they might take a break for a year to add new companions, because if they announce new companions, though, then we would probably see the market start to surge. A lot of people would buy a lot of companion gear off the market. We don't have any sort of economic supply and demand, kerfuffles going on. So I would say if you want it, you probably just buy it. But if you want to roll 5,000 Archival Fortunes, no problem with that. Then we got our 2 books, The Spotted Towers, not as good as The Two Towers. And then we have The Waters of Oblivion, which for 1,000 Archival Fortunes, pretty good read. A lot of stuff goes on in the water. Next up, we have our 3 scripts, Intellect and Endurance, Poison Damage, and Knight's Valor. Now, these are going to be significantly more expensive if you don't have them unlocked on another character already. I do love Intellect and Endurance on PvP characters. Being able to give yourself both the major and the minor versions of those recoveries, stacking it with potions, is great. Poison Damage can be good. A lot of people like to poison other people for better or worse. You might like to poison other players. And Knight's Valor certainly isn't a terrible signature script. I would just encourage you, though, instead of buying these, just try to weave in more daily quest content into your daily kind of repertoire. You're going to be getting a lot of free scripts from doing so, and it's going to save you a lot of currency. Then we have our archival riddles, easy skip We also have the Sigil Globes. Also an easy skip. This thing's not even worth probably 7,000 gold. Also, just do your daily fragment each day inside of a public dungeon. Save yourself a lot of gold and time. We do have the fragment of the Winterborn, though. Now, fragments are unique because they're guaranteed drops. But you do have to farm Spindle Clutch 2. Which, I mean, yeah, you probably would rather farm Spindle Clutch 2 than spend 2,000 archival or 5,000 archival fortunes. I mean, Spindle Clutch 2, is known for its brutality, but you also don't have to farm it on Veteran. So why spend 5,000 archival fortunes, which is arguably significantly harder? Next up, inside the Scholarium, inside of Ivea, we have ourselves a nice little merchant. Now, if you've never been here before, he's right here in the kind of bottom, middle-ish portion of the Scholarium, which is just over here if you've never been to Ivea before. Now, he has rotational scripts as well. Now, these, again, cost gold, and they're cheaper if you already have them learned on a character. He has Force, Uncertainty, Immobilization, Class Mastery, which is static, and then Wayfarer's Mastery. Now, of these, I think that Force is probably one of the better ones. Force can be one of the things that if you're doing solo content, you're not usually always getting from other players. If you're doing solo content, PvP, some people use things like Force as well. I think this is probably the best one of the ones this week. Uncertainty is okay, giving people the uncertainty that they don't need in their life for PvP. Immobilization can also be really good. Immobilizing things and people can be decently helpful. And then Wayfarer's Mastery is, it's all right. It's usually worth getting these with gold just because, ticks off all the ones that you don't have already. So overall, I would generally get these if you've got a good chunk of gold saved up on your characters. And finally, we're inside our Telvar vendor, inside of our Lambient passageway here, inside of the Imperial City. Now, the nice thing about this vendor is it's also got some great rotational items. We start with some golded out sets. Bulwark of Ruination. Now, spoiler, the amulet is here, but also the ring is also available too. When an enemy blocks one of your attacks, they reduce the amount of damage that they can block by 8% for 5 seconds. This effect can stack up to 5 times and can occur once every 0.3 seconds. This set is just, it's good, but it's not great. It's not excellent. It's not a staple. The meta doesn't really benefit with sets like these. Yeah, maybe you want to have somebody using a set like this in a ball group, maybe. But overall, you're just not going to be building this set very often. 100,000 Telvar is a huge order. So yeah, it's like a 7 to maybe close to an 8 out of 10 set, but not one that you're really going to be using or it's going to be on your periphery. Next up is the Marksman set. Reduce the cost to your stamina abilities by 5% and increase the damage of your bow abilities against players by 8%. Yeah, sets like these could be good. The problem with ganking sets, bow sets, is that there's just a lot of competition to do a lot of damage against other players for not a whole lot of, output. So is a set like this good enough to be like one of the best? Probably not. It's a great set if you're looking for some, very specific bow niche damage output against players. I'd give it like an 8.0. Like, it's not going to be as good as some of the other sets out there that are really good for ganking, but it definitely does have a lot of damage that it can do against other players. I think one of its other big problems, it's 2, 3, and 4 are kind of a little weird. Like, you don't generally need 2 bars of stamina recovery, especially if you're getting a 5-piece bonus of reduce your stamina cost by 5%. But overall, not bad at all. Still hits the great mark in my opinion. And I know that there is somebody in the comment section that is absolutely chuffed right now because the Dovra Sabatons are one of the more annoying mythics to get in the game. And what you have to do to get this one is in Northern Elsewhere, you have to open safe boxes, which is just so cattywampus. It's really difficult to kind of RNG get safe boxes when you need them. They're near all these people when, they're there. The Dovra Sabatons are, if you just look at where all the rest of them come from, Sunspire. This one, comes from Sijic Portals, Trash Monsters in Moongrave Fane, Lair of Marsalok. I think that the Dovra Sabatons are the hardest to get mythic in the game. If you think there's a harder one, put it in the comments below. This will take off the sting and let you get one of the 5 pieces that you need. And overall, it might be worth the investment because while the Mythic isn't anything that's like super essential, it's very weird. It's like you sprint at enemies and you build stacks and then you deal damage, you get armor, and it's very weird. But I do kind of love the Mythic. It's just so flavorful in what it does. But man, is it the worst one to get in my opinion. The next one is significantly easier though. Do not worry. All you need to do is fish in Murkmire foul fishing spots to get the Harpooner's Wading Kilt. Now this is another fantastic Mythic that everybody should own because it's like one of the best in slot Mythics for trial content. You can see here, we'll click on it and I'll show you why. Don't click on that, Jake. That's the entire zone. Don't not worried about that. But dealing direct damage grants you a stack of Hunter's Focus for 20 seconds, up to 10 stacks. Each stack increases your critical chance by 110 and your critical damage by 1%. The downside is that taking damage removes 5 stacks up to once per second, and then you could obviously still have up to 10 stacks max. This is a great Mythic because there's a lot of trial content. You're not getting touched inappropriately, so you can build these stacks and basically have a Mythic that builds tons of crit chance and crit damage for you, which is great. Next up, we have Betnik treasure maps, which are not as bad as you might think that they would be because the sets there are not horrible, but they're not worth 6,000 Telvar. Then we've got the rings. Then we also go down, we have Veneration, Disease Damage, and Fencer's Parry. Thankfully, all of these, in my opinions, are skips. None of these are essential to any sort of gameplay where I would say, oh, if you really need flame damage for this one specific build, you might want to buy this. None of these are really going to be essential to any sort of specific gameplay. And Fragment of Hersine returns. It's relatively straightforward. It is inside of a Craglorn delve, which is notably more difficult than your average delve, but you only have to farm it and complete it one time, so it's probably not worth 5,000 Telvar unless you're a super solo player who doesn't want to go and farm a kind of like group delve. But everyone, thank you guys so much again for watching. We're 55 subscribers away from our next goal, so please hit the sub button if you do not mind. Main reason is that we're doing our 3 giveaway drawings. All you have to do to enter the first one is be subscribed. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Just slap that button for me. Second thing is just make sure you like the video / leave a comment for the second drawing. And the third one is look for a hidden word to be flashed upon the screen. We'll also do a little fun quiz throughout the month too. First person to answer the quiz question correctly will also win. So got a bunch of codes from ZeniMax to give away. Thank you so guys again so much for watching. Please pardon my voice. It is still absolutely recovering. Had to take a lot of takes in this video, so thank you for bearing with me, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.